Hello everybody, my name is Justin Forth, and for Dr. Kelly's class Communication 520, I will be discussing social penetration theory. The origin of this social penetration theory began with the idea of self-disclosure, and this idea was very popular within communication in the 1960s and 70s. From that idea, Erwin Altman and Dulles Taylor created social penetration theory in 1973. Social penetration theory became described as increasing information within human relationships, and it focused on the motivations of people and as well as their behaviors. Social penetration theory was originally a part of the socio-psychological tradition, and has since moved to the socio-cultural tradition because of the complex relationship development and the necessity to be moved to that more cultural based tradition. Altman and Taylor explain this process of social penetration like a sphere. You have a sphere, and the core of the sphere are your most intimate and personalized feelings. The whole sphere is made up of the knowledge that we have, stored information. It may seem like a mess and unorganized, but actually it's very organized, and we are very aware of the things that we are keeping hidden. And those are the things we keep closest to the core. And the outer part of the sphere is the things that people are able to see. It's how we present ourselves in regular activities, daily communication, as well as the things we wear. And the process of penetrating the sphere is how social penetration, we find out more aspects about others, also breadth and depth. The idea of breadth is learning multiple things about different people, specifically in this theory, by asking many questions. And depth is the process of learning detailed information about someone else. So the combination of the two really help penetrate someone's in the relationship. Relational development, is the process, and it has 4 stages. Orientation is the first. Exploratory affective exchange is the second. Affective exchange is the third, and stable exchange is the fourth and final stage. With orientation, all the information passed back and forth within the relationship is very basic and public information. It's if you see someone on the street and just basic here and there talk, that's the first initial stage. Exploratory affective exchange is the second one, and it's slightly deeper, but it's still a very shallow aspect of relationship. Just a little bit more basic information is shared, and at this point, the two people in the relationship have to decide if they're going to take that relationship to the further step, which is the third, and that's the affective exchange. Critical feelings at this stage are more personal. Talk about deeper things, and at this point, if the reward is worth it, then they move to the final stage, which is stable exchange. And in this intimate part of the relationship, it's very intimate, and even partners are able to predict their partner's response. And like I said a couple times, it's very intimate, and usually it's the marriage relationship or romantic relationship that this process is being done by. Also, in this part of the relationship, it's very synchronized, so obviously they get to know each other a lot better. Originally, social penetration theory was viewed as a linear aspect, but it's now geared more towards more of a cycle, because back and forth it works that way, but as the relationship deepens, more things are said, therefore there's more tension in the relationship, and the things that we said we cannot unsay. So that is always with us, so it's a circular motion in the sense of that, and it's constant, and the deeper the relationship, the larger the cycle is, and it continues, and it becomes more synchronized. And a study by Arthur Van Leer, he took students who didn't know each other and put them in a room, and tape recorded their conversations for 30 minutes for 5 weeks, once a week. And he wanted to see the cyclical patterns of these conversations and judge the breadth and depth and the openness within these relationships of initially meeting. And what they found was, surprisingly, that the breadth of the conversations were very, very consistent. There was multiple questions, lots of information being passed back and forth, and near the end, once they got to know each other, there was a little bit of depth. He also compared this study to students who knew each other and were labeled close friends. The breadth was very similar, like lots of questions, but the depth was a lot more intense because they knew they were able to be more synchronized within these relationships. And if you say, hey, what did Johnny say? They obviously knew, both of them knew who Johnny was and what situation they were talking about, instead of having to explain that situation. With this, each relationship is different and everybody's idiosyncratic, so that's why supports the idea of socio-psychological, just because within each person it's more individual instead of the interaction with relationship. Johari window was created by Joe Luft and Harry Ingham in 1955, and these guys really started the idea kind of self-disclosure, getting back to the original idea. And they have 4 levels of what they call the Johari window. And the first aspect, the first window pane, as they call it, is the open self. And in the open self, these are things that are known by both, and within like a very shallow intimacy level. So just basic information would be shared, and not very much information is going on. Also, the next one is called the hidden self, information that we know about ourselves but we hide from each other, from the other person. And we have to really determine when to share this, and to be careful not to share too much too fast. The blind self is where others know something about you and you are unaware of, like a habit, whether it's good or bad, or a tendency and abilities and skills. And the best thing about the blind self is that these things do not remain blind from us for very long, or for a long period of time, just because we learn things over time while communicating with other people. The unknown self is unknown to us as well as to others. In this aspect, it's something you've never tried before, so obviously you're very unaware of what the outcome will be and the response will be. For example, if I've never been to war, I'm very thankful for people who have gone, but I have no way of knowing how I would respond to war and what goes on, and neither would my wife, and our relationship is very deep. So, and to go on with that, there are some self-disclosing guidelines that the authors warn us about. Self-disclosure should happen over time. You shouldn't share too much too fast. Many people might start a new job and make a joke about their boss and rub someone else the wrong way, and it could end up getting you fired, and you send the wrong message right off the bat. Also, be aware of strategic self-disclosures. Someone at work may come up and say, hey, I got 20 extra bucks on my bonus check, how much did you get? And then you tell them. That whole purpose was for them to tell you something in order for you to tell them something back. Also, be careful of over-disclosing, especially right off the bat. This happens a lot on planes. People, the annoying guy next to you, always talking in your ear, explains his whole life story, and you really don't care. And if you see that guy again, you're really going to avoid him. And so just be careful of that, because the likelihood that you see them is probably higher than you think. Also, the self-disclosure burden is last. This one is knowing something and knowing you need to tell somebody. So say if you have a relationship with a high school student and they come and confess, like, hey, I did some drugs the other day, you have to decide whether you're going to share that with the principal or some other higher power in that regard. So the burden is on you, and it's morally and ethically based. So to conclude, social penetration theory is crucial to developing relationships, and as well as deepening them, because 75% of our day is done communicating with other people. So thank you for listening, and good luck.